This is Mari Robeson of Love Lulu Creative, a podcast that supports and celebrates artists and creative entrepreneurs. This is episode number 49. Wow, I can't believe it. And it's also the very first episode of 2021. And I can't think of a better person to kick off the new year than with the very talented Camille Villanueva. Camille is an Oakland-based art director and artist. She currently works as an art director for Square, helping design creative across a spectrum of marketing channels. In her spare time, Camille enjoys learning new skills and dabbling in a variety of hobbies, including costume fabrication, puppetry, and printmaking. And I'm so excited because I've not talked to anybody like that yet. And it's such an interesting and diverse episode. I know you guys will really enjoy this. Plus, Camille also recently just started her first online print shop of her linoleum block prints, which is a fascinating, beautiful process. And she's been documenting all of that on social media. She's got quite a following on TikTok, and you can also find her on Instagram. All of that information will be in the show notes. But it's a super interesting and fun episode, and I'm really happy to be able to kick off the new year with the very talented Camille. And if you are liking these episodes, please hit the subscribe button and share them with your creative friends. They're really filled with so much great advice and information for anybody who is looking to pursue a creative career. Hello, Camille. I am so excited to have you on today. You have such a diverse and unique career. I want to ask you a million questions, and you might have to reel me in, but thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
It only took a year.
Just a year.
Yeah, but wow. Okay, so you are, goodness, I mean, you do so many great things, but currently right now you're the art director for Square up in the Silicon Valley, up in Oakland, correct? Is that where you are?
Yeah, their headquarters is in San Francisco, but they just opened a new office in Oakland.
Oh, how nice. That's nice and convenient for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also just opened your online shop of your gorgeous prints. So that's where we are today. And I can't wait to dive into all of that. But I want to go back to the beginning. So not the beginning, but I want to go back. So you're a California-based artist, but have you always been, are you from California? Were you born in California?
Yeah, I'm from Los Angeles.
Okay. That explains the LA, Oakland. Okay, so did you ever going back to when you were really little, was there ever a moment when you went, I want to be an artist? Like, was there a defining moment, or were you just always really creative child?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was drawing, I remember this very specific moment. Like I was drawing this picture of like a princess or something. I had all these markers and like glitter around me, and I had put it together on this sheet of paper, and I show it to my dad, and he was like freaking out about it. He was like, "This is so beautiful." And I was like, "No, it's not." Like even like 5-year-old me was like, "What are you talking about?" Like this is not. But he was so supportive. Like
Aw.
he took this picture and put it up in his office and would like, show his coworkers, and I was really moved by that little moment that for sure I was telling everyone like, "Oh, I want to be an artist" after that moment. So, I think that was the starting point.
Yeah, I mean, most people, like a lot of people I talk to, like they have other careers and then they go into an art career later. But like when I look through your bio, like it like flows into it weaves into every part of what you've done, it seems. So that doesn't surprise me that it was a fabulous princess picture. I mean, and what a great thing, princess and glitter, like yay, let's do that today too.
I know. Right.
So then you went, so in high school, then you did a lot of different things in high school. I mean, I see here that you taught yourself how to sew, and then you went to a lot of the costume conventions. Is that when the cosplay? How do you say that? How do you say that?
Yeah, cosplay.
Cosplay. Is that when that started for you? Was that in high school?
Yeah. I was always interested in making my own clothes. Um, and my parents were really good at giving me or letting me take classes. Um, and so in high school, I asked my mom if I could take like a sewing class, and they gifted me a sewing machine for Christmas. Um, and it was I never was actually like fully trained when I first got the sewing machine. I actually would take a bunch of my clothes that I had in my closet that I didn't like anymore, and I would take them apart, and I would figure out how to make a pattern for like pants or make a pattern for shirts or dresses. And it was really it's really interesting when you think about like something that you want to learn so hard, so much that you destroy a bunch of your clothes to to learn how to do it. And yeah, I ended up going to a bunch of these costume conventions at a young age, um, like
Can you
freshman year of high
explain what that
school.
is? Because I don't know if everybody knows what cosplay is. So can you explain what that is a little bit?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's these conventions where they're geared towards like Japanese animation. And my freshman year of high school, I had joined the anime club at my at high school, and then they um, had like a field trip to go to this convention, and it was like the first one I went to, but it was the first of many. And basically,
Funny, the
go
school did it as a field trip. Like that was pretty
yeah.
progressive.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was the club that went, but it was
Okay.
definitely really um, an exciting moment because
Yeah.
I'd never seen so many people who like sewed their own clothes, and like they also liked the different shows that I like to watch, and there was so much in common. I ended up from that point, which was like I think 2002 was my first convention. That's a long time ago.
And you make your
I
costumes and they're just, I mean, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
They're,
Yeah,
they're
it
just,
was always a side hobby. I always thought, this is just like a side thing. I'm only doing it because I really enjoy the people that I meet, and all of my friends are within this community. So I really enjoyed the sort of social aspect of it and
Mhm.
had kind of compartmentalized it to be this like side hobby that's not going to really go anywhere further than that.
How
But I
interesting.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
Because it's so all these different things that we do in our lives, how they kind of like all weave together and teach us different things down the road. It's fun.
yeah, yeah. And if you really like reflect on yourself and you think, what have I continuously chosen to do over and over and over,
Mhm.
is really something it's really rare to find that. Like to be able to willingly sew something, on a deadline, on the side, outside of school, outside of your job, it must mean you really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Super creative process.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense that you would go study art in college. So where did you end up going to college?
I went to UCLA for fine arts. Um,
Excellent. Wow.
yeah, I didn't know that I would get in. I was like really shocked, and my parents were really shocked that I got in. um, but actually, this is really helpful for someone who's trying to get into art school.
Yeah.
Um, it
Share.
was it was really about the portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say that I was, a straight A student, and one would expect like, oh, you go to UCLA, you had straight A's, and I was just such a poor test taker. Um, but my
It
interviews
wasn't
and
where your passion was, obviously.
it was not.
Great. Let me make a really cool costume or let me stay up all night
Yeah.
studying economics.
Oh my gosh, the worst. I was so bad at
I totally
economics.
relate.
Yeah, and so I had a portfolio. It was a strong one, and it was a variety of medium. So it
Mhm.
was like showed lots of like the spectrum of my work, and so I think that's what got me in. It was more so the passions that you have truly, and then you apply it to these like, you know, applications, and it shows.
hmm Yeah, I think that's very true. I know even when I went to Cal Poly, it was really about the portfolio. And if you're looking at going into an art school and to have something as diverse, not just a 2D artwork that you're submitting, but you can show these costumes that you were creating,
Hmm.
designing, like
Yeah.
that probably was like, ooh, well, this
Yeah.
girl's really creative. We need to get her into here. So
Yeah.
this is where I find this gets really interesting. So you're at UCLA and you take an activist puppetry class, which what the heck is that? I've never heard of that. So can you explain what that is?
Yeah. Yeah, UCLA was great because it's just like super like wide range of classes you can take. I mean, I was taking classes like Thai dance and
Mm.
sitar. Like there were so many weird classes. I think the weirdest one I took was like Vikings and their relatives, or like I took a fairy tale class. Like there were so many odd like options you could take.
Mhm.
Um, and I came across this class. It was like sent to me over email. They were like, oh, there's a visiting artist who's from India, and if you want to take this class. And actually my schedule was pretty packed that year, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I have the time, but I'll join one class and see if I like it. And this woman comes into the room with a bunch of like hand saws, and she goes, "We're going to go cut down some bamboo." Like that was the first line she gave me.
Oh, okay.
She's like, "We're going to cut down some bamboo." And I was like, "On campus?" Like, what? And we like walk over to the math and science department, and we're cutting down some old bamboo. And she's like, "Okay, let's like sneak this into the building." And people are like, "What are these people doing?" Um, and I was like, "This is the weirdest class I've ever
over
like."
over the history of Vikings.
Yeah, yeah.
It gets even weirder.
It gets weirder.
I love
And
it.
I was like, that was the first day, and we end the class, and she goes, "Welcome to activist puppetry," and I was like, "Oh, I'm sold. I'm going every day." Like,
So what did you
uh,
make with the bamboo?
we made an 18-foot puppet. This
Oh
like,
my gosh.
yeah, like it was harnessed to a person and from the inside, and then one person
Wow.
was the hand, like the left hand and the right hand. um it was such a like, I never thought puppets could be giant puppets. Like I always
Yeah,
picture
yeah.
puppets to be like, Muppets or hand puppets. So I was really blown away. And we were doing these puppets to like raise awareness for HIV and AIDS.
Mm,
So it was that specific puppet was really interesting. It was kind of the story that we were telling in the theater was about releasing the stigma, or like raising awareness of the stigma people feel when they have HIV and AIDS. And so it was it was like really touching, and it wasn't just so on the nose, and it wasn't just like, this is what HIV and AIDS are. This is like a really personal, human story. And I was really impressed to see how you could tell that story through puppetry. Um, yeah. So
that's the
I,
power of art, isn't it? I mean, I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's so, yeah, nice.
So this woman, she was from India, and then you say you took a semester off to travel to India to teach. Was it because of her?
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
on her last day, she wrote me a postcard, and she said, "If you're ever in India, like, let me
You
know, and
know,
I'll post you up."
didn't just ever want to go to the other side of the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. I mean, I don't even know if she was being serious, but the next year, I my mom was like, apparently studying abroad is a really good thing for your, you know, applications and stuff, and kind of was opening up this opportunity to travel. Like, and I was like, "Oh, well, so I should go to India." And she's like, "What?"
Why there?
Why? Why? Um, Yeah, and so I let my teacher know, and she's like, "Yeah, you could stay with me and work at the theater."
Wow.
And so yeah, it was great. It wasn't really like a study for school credits. I literally just took the semester off and then applied all of the like housing costs to my plane ticket and the trip. And it was such
It is
a
so educational. I
amazing.
mean, there's just nothing
Yeah,
you cannot traveling the world. There, you just cannot get that out of reading a book. That
yeah,
experience of actually being there, especially India, is a beautiful place too, and it
yeah,
so much creativity in India. And
yeah.
wow, so there you said that you taught shadow puppets. Is that the same type of work, or is that where is that a little bit different? Like when you start using cutting out imagery, you tell
Mhm.
me what it is.
Yeah, so shadow puppets is like cutting paper and then utilizing like a light source and your puppet to tell a story on like a sheet of paper or like a backdrop. Um, we also did it using projectors. So we would place the uh, cut out puppet and put it on a projector. We actually would have two projectors and we would transition between scenes by prepping up the scene after on the other projector, turning off the first projector and turning on the second projector.
Hmm.
So there was like this um, style of shadow puppetry that we were really sort of focused on. It it's partly because in college the sort of medium that I ended up focusing on was paper cutting. So a lot of the work that I did in college was these really large cut out pieces of paper and so that sort of is translated through shadow puppetry. My colleagues would draw the puppets and then I would just go in very meticulously cutting out all of these puppets and so um,
And
yeah,
if for
I
people that are listening to this, I mean, you're kind of downplaying it. Like you wield an X-Acto blade like a magic wand. I cannot believe the way that you do that. I've recently been revisiting using my X-Acto blades, and and remembering how many cuts
uh-huh. Oh my gosh,
college,
so many.
so many that I mean, really, you create some really fascinating things with the X-Acto blade, which is just that's a craft in itself. I mean, really,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh my
Oh,
God.
I love it. I think like like cutting paper is so therapeutic too. It's just like one piece after the other and it's
Mhm.
this really long process, but I would really get lost in the like, meticulousness of it and the repetition of it and um
Yeah, it's
so
meditative,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Wow. So this is so interesting because I can see how this like thread that goes through everything that you're doing. So then after college, what happens then? After you come
Um
back from India, you've graduated, then where do you go?
yeah, so actually it was really hard. It was like 2010 and there was like a recession. Like nobody was hiring. It
Right,
was so
right.
crazy.
Kind of like right
And
now.
kind of like right now. And I felt like I was applying to so many random things, but I felt also like no one would hire someone with no experience.
Mm.
Um, and so I moved up to the central like valley area. I moved up to Salinas. Um, and mainly because I had friends there, and my partner at the time was living there, and so I thought, oh, I'll try this new experience, live outside of Los Angeles, and it was such a like culture shock, actually,
Oh yeah.
maybe more so of a culture shock than going to India, because like
Ah, interesting.
I had I
I
had
can get
no
that. I
idea.
get it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're just in LA, you kind of expect that LA kind of uh, transcends Los Angeles all the way throughout California.
It
And
is so not true. And for people who are listening to this who are not from California, like the pockets of California are so unique and diverse.
yeah.
They're very, very, very different. Even LA to Oakland or San Francisco, night and day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
super different. and I was so shocked. I mean, growing up in Los Angeles and only living in LA was such a reminder that there was a whole other world out there. And Salinas was like the complete opposite. It was a sleepy farm town.
Right.
Like I was really like constantly reminding myself, like, why am I here? Like, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but and so here I am trying to apply for jobs. Like the local coffee shops won't hire me. They're like, you're too
Oh,
overqualified. I I end up like at this, luckily end up at this photo studio called TTO. And I really feel like a lot of the stuff that I'd picked up from, my hobbies and from college helped me because
sure.
I was learning Photoshop actually to help document my work and my costumes and, you know, kind of just to enhance the documentation of my photos that I had. And and that was really what that job was. It was retouching using Photoshop, all this like post production work. The photographer would bring in cards and cards of events that he'd shot over the week, and I would go in and pull the best images and Photoshop them.
Mhm.
And yeah, I ended up working that job for quite a long time. Um, yeah, maybe like
Eh,
3 years.
Well, I mean, well, that's not that long. I was, like, 3 years of heavy Photoshop work will get you real good at it.
Yeah, yeah.
But then so then you do leave and you go back to Los Angeles and you start teaching. So how
Yeah.
did that come about?
So you know, I felt like I didn't want to stay in Salinas for that long. I didn't expect to actually stay for 3 years. And so I was like, okay, it's time. I need to, make it back to LA. And, when I did move back to LA, I just had this really great, like revival because like now I was seeing LA in a whole new light. Like this is not
Mm,
Salinas. This is Los Angeles, and there's
a
so
new
many
a
things
new
to do.
appreciation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I really enjoyed it. Of course, my family is there too, so that's really nice. But there was an opportunity at the high school that I went to for a visual arts instructor, and I applied, and they were actually like really close to, the start of school. It was, I think, the end of July or early August, and I think the first day of school was uh, August 20 something.
Mhm.
Um, and I applied like, I don't have any curriculum or teaching experience necessarily, but I know the school very well and can definitely pick up, what the courses are because I have, all this experience in um, drawing and painting from college and high school, and also just printmaking, photography from the post college job that I had, and those classes were the ones that they were offering to the students. So
Perfect.
they hired me. I know I was really happy to get that job, and it was
Did
a
you
really like, huh?
Oh, keep going, sorry.
Oh, teaching was such a um, crazy experience. I don't know if there's a better word for it. Teaching high school is um, such a mixed bag because you really aren't, I don't feel like you're paid as much as you work. You work
Oh, for
so
sure.
hard.
That is for sure.
And you work so hard and you have a lot of responsibilities. And
Yeah.
and
People go, "Oh, but you get the summers off," and you're like, "You
uh,
have no idea."
yeah. Yeah, in order to like supplement your summers, you like teach summer school. I taught summer school, so
Well, it looks
yeah,
like
it
you're
was crazy.
supplementing. Also, you said you worked as a fabricator during that time too. You were creating more puppets and
Yeah, yeah.
the film. So where were you doing that?
Um, yeah, well, so since there wasn't much, like my income was so low as a high school teacher, I really had to like supplement it with other jobs. And I'd actually met up with like a college friend who ended up was like working in the entertainment industry. Um, and we started dating, and he basically like brought me into this whole world of like film and theater and cinema
Hmm.
that was happening in
Right.
LA. And, yeah, growing up in LA, I had never had any, um, experience with that. And you'd think, because, Hollywood and Los
Right. Right.
Angeles is like where all the stars are. But LA is so big that you can end up in one side of the, town, and you have like no interaction with
Right.
that
Right.
kind of world. So this was also my first time kind of experiencing this, like being on set, doing like uh, set design and costume design for film and theater. And I would
At
do
this
that on the
point, seems
side.
like it would be so natural for you to just
Yeah.
roll right into that with everything that
Yeah.
you've done before. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first like fabrication, they call it fabrication, but first puppet that I had to make was this like goblin that like pops out of a pizza box. It's like you have to make the weirdest things for like
So how does that
commercials.
process look? Like, did they go, okay, just come up with this? Like, did you get a storyboard from someone or did you create the storyboard and they're like, we want a goblin, give us some sketches and then start fabricating this? Like, how does that work?
It was so kind of uh like ad hoc, like it was so um basically do what you can with the little money you have, because there was so tight budget um in the film industry for specific projects. So it was a lot of like, just make a goblin, it's either a goblin or no goblin.
Uh-huh.
And I thought about what a goblin would look like. I did a lot of research on that and kind of just started building what I thought with also just like the materials I had. Um, and when I
Hopefully
brought
you
it
didn't go
over,
back to the clothes in your closet and start cutting them up.
actually,
Maybe I
maybe
used
a
a
little
few
bit.
things from my closet.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I brought it over, and they were just like, we could not even imagine what this would come out to be.
That's
And then
awesome.
one of my favorite ones that I did was this like set of possums for a Verizon commercial.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you ask like, how did you, come up with a, idea? They literally say to you like, we need 5 possums and make them the scariest looking possums you see. And I was like typing up on Google like scariest possums, like trying to
And you're like,
what
"That's
does that look
terrifying.
like?
I don't wanna
Yeah,
do this job."
yeah. Um, so yeah, and there are no really patterns for these things. You kind of just have to
Yeah.
start um, moving the fabric around and making your own patterns. And I feel like luckily, because I was doing costume work, it's the same thing. You kind of have to like take an existing pattern and then like mold it to what your needs are. And having done puppets in India and at UCLA, it kind of was just like my favorite thing to do was trying to solve these like
Mhm.
problems that don't have these like tutorials for. And yeah, I really enjoyed creating
What I
puppets for
really
film.
like about all of this, and I think is really helpful for like the mission of this podcast, is sharing that, there's creativity in all kinds of forms. And when you watch
Yeah.
a Verizon commercial and you see some possums that are scary, you don't realize that someone had to come up with that idea and someone had to actually make that idea. And like this is the behind the scenes stuff where there's
Uh-huh.
work for creatives. And you
Hmm.
have to be super creative to problem solve that and make it
Hmm.
look good and be able to tell the story. And you know what I mean? It's like it's so much
Yeah.
stuff that people just don't think about, all those things. I mean, everything is design, everything is
Yeah.
everything.
Oh yeah. When you start looking at the world in the eyes of design, it becomes pretty evident that no one else would be able to function without designers.
Exactly. Right. Right. So, I mean, there's just so many different avenues, and I hope that gives people a lot of inspiration to know that there's just many ways that you can live in a creative world and live a creative lifestyle. So, okay, so that's amazing and really, really cool. I want to jump to where you are now, though. I mean, I know you've done
Yeah.
a ton of things for major companies and stuff, but so now you're the art director for Square, which is a huge
Mhm.
company. Was that something that, how did that come about for you? Were you looking to do something different, or did it just kind of like everything else, just roll into the next logical step for you?
Um, no, I really have to thank a friend of mine who she was a designer in tech, and she felt like I had, what it took to be a designer
And is this
in
somebody
tech.
that you met in college? Is this
Yeah, this is actually someone I met through the costume community. Um, so what's interesting, just like to step back a little, everyone in the costume community was really artistic and creative. And so both, like most people were holding two types of careers. They were holding their like, costume thing that they did, and they were also, a storyboard artist or a like a um, one of my friends does the like knitwear, was doing like knitwear at like a company. Either way, there was like so many creatives in the costume community, and one of my friends was a designer, and she kept saying to me, I think you would be really good at this job. And so she offered me this role, or she recommended me at this startup. And, I was so tired being a teacher. I thought, I want to be able to produce work myself. It's like nice to be able to teach students work and watch them do work, but there's like something about my career that I want to also be more tactile and like hands-on.
sure?
So
I get that.
yeah, I remember I remember she was like, "Can you fly to San Francisco for this interview?" And I scrounged up all my money
You're
and
like, my
I
teacher's salary? Are you kidding me?
yeah, and I literally was like, "Yes, I'm coming. I'm gonna show them I can do it." And I
And just so
flew
people know,
over.
because to drive from LA to San Francisco is a good 6, 7, 8, 7 hours,
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah,
So flying
yeah.
is definitely a better thing. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
People think that they're
Eh,
right next to each other, and they're not. Like this is a
oh, yeah.
huge state, you know?
Yeah.
So
I
okay.
know, and that always, like, trips me up when I think about the East Coast, because
I
like,
know. They're all like right
when
next
you
to each other.
yeah, they're all um, but yeah, so she was like, "Oh, I think you could be really good for this job." And I got hired. It was a startup that was fairly new. They had just done a big pivot, and
This wasn't Square though. This was another.
no, this was another company. And I learned a lot there. I think if you're trying to get a job in tech, there's definitely pros and cons to working in a startup and working in a big company like Square. Like startups are really like, you wear a lot of hats.
Mhm.
It's a really lean team, a lot of fast projects going on. Um, we the team that I worked in was a really robust design team that they had gotten acquired by this company. And basically, I learned everything from them. And I really am thankful. They were so open about sharing their design experience with me. And um, that was the first group of designers that taught me a spectrum from like product design to branding to even like a better understanding of like running a business. And so they that sort of job I had, that startup first one, was about 2.5 years. Um, and yeah, continuing on to Square, I had taken up a couple other positions before that, but was realizing that startup was really, there's a lot of like instability startup.
Sure. Yeah. Because if it doesn't fly, it doesn't get funded. And yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah. There's lots of like, investors dropping out and
Yeah.
financial problems, but it's also really rough because um, their systems are not really in place yet because they're small.
Mm.
Uh, so it's harder for people to have like work-life balance, or it's
Right.
harder for people to, um, because they're wearing so many hats, like
Mhm.
focus on one thing. And
Mhm.
so the nice thing about startup, if like there's a, artist or designer who's thinking about going into tech, the nice thing about it is, yeah, you can start somewhere, you know, um, like an early stage, like a level one designer, and then move up pretty quickly because
Mhm.
you're wearing so many hats. You can work on lots of different sides of the business and get this like bigger, technically bigger picture than if you were just stuck on, a small team in a very big company. You kind of only focus on like one little thing,
I think
and you
it's
wouldn't
really
really get to
important,
move up.
and I think it's also really helpful. I mean, if you can look at it as an education,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you're learning all of these different things, which is incredibly valuable.
yeah,
Whether you end up using it for yourself or taking it into the next job that you have, but it has
yeah.
a high burnout rate, is what I'm hearing you say.
Oh yeah, it was it was so crazy. One day they'll ask you to like edit videos, and the whole time you've been doing, layout and web design, and suddenly you're like in After Effects and learning how to, do animation because
Edit this
there's no one
type.
else to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right, right. You're like on
Uh,
Google, on YouTube.
yeah.
How do I edit? I use
Oh
it all
yeah.
the time.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah, YouTube school
Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh. The best. It's the best. So then you leave that company, and then was Square the next place you went?
No, I was a design manager at this other startup for a while. Um, that was, that was like maybe like I'd been a teacher before, so I felt a little bit like that was a little bit like managing. And there's definitely traits of being a teacher that took me to this position of being a
Mhm.
design manager.
Sure.
One of being, just being able to listen, and take lots of consideration for other people, um, and how they're feeling about their job, and feeling like success from when they succeed is very similar to like a teacher role. And
And
so it was a
also when
small
you
startup.
teach, you have to understand like different people learn differently. There's all
Yeah.
different ways to go around and teach.
Oh yeah.
Teach
Yeah.
like one person, you're going to teach this drawing to somebody, you're going to have to teach it 5 different ways because
Oh yeah.
people see it differently, and
Yes.
it's great management skill to have when after you've done that, especially
Yeah.
good. You like got thrown into all of these things, like you're going to be a teacher, not kindergarten, high school.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna learn real fast. Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. This startup was it was a small one. So I was only managing like 5 people, but it was it was really a crazy experience for me because they were going through the roller coaster ride of running a business. And at one point at this job I had to fire a couple of my team members. I never thought I'd have to do that. Like it
Yeah.
was such a crazy experience, trying to find the most empathetic way to tell someone this information.
Mhm.
Um, and that was being a woman in tech. Um, I felt like I felt I felt really uh, overwhelmed because I'm very emotional, and
Mhm.
I would go into these meetings, they're talking about letting these people go like it was just a numbers thing.
Mhm.
And I would just get so emotional, and I was like, wow, it's so difficult like to be a woman in tech where it seems like they're looking at this at a perspective that's kind of like based off of just income or like how much money they can make. But
I think that's
yeah,
true across all businesses. I mean, I think there is
yeah,
just that point. It's not just the tech industry, but it's every industry. It comes down to the money, right? To the
yeah,
dollars, if it's working or not.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
well, I'm glad that you learned all those things and
Yeah.
all those things because that's a lot of really diverse and helpful experience to have.
Yeah.
I want to, I know, and then now, are you I'm thinking of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
jumping all the way forward to where you are now, though. And I want to go towards your new kind of venture that you've been doing that I've been watching on Instagram, which was really fun. That started with Arttober, and that is your block printing. And after going through all of this information from you and all these things that you've done, I find it so natural, but also so interesting that you've gone to something so organic as, making prints with linoleum blocks after working
Mhm.
in this tech industry for so long
Mhm.
too. But it does make sense because that's, that
Yeah.
that love that you have. So why did you decide to start this?
This is really funny, but back in high school, that's the first time I ever did a print. Like our teacher had showed us how to do printmaking, and it stuck. I'd always looked back to that class and thought, wow, I love the process of printmaking so much. It's such a therapeutic process, similar to like paper cutting, where you're just kind
Yeah,
of meticulously carving.
yeah. But you're
And
carving in reverse. That's the thing that gets me.
yeah,
It's like you have to think backwards in
yeah.
your mind, which is crazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I just like really enjoy the first pull after you've inked up your block and you like lift up the paper and you
Mhm.
just see what it looks like because you're never sure when you're cutting it. Like, I wonder what it's going to look like when you print it. And that feeling is just like out of this world. I love seeing the first print after you finish carving it. Um, yeah, it's one of my favorite mediums.
Why
So
do you think that I think so too? Like I've always loved printmaking. I think I mean, even going back to the old printing text machines, like the newspaper machines, like I'm always been fascinated with all of that. But it is such kind of um, not, it's just so anti-computer.
yeah,
Like people on Procreate doing all this really cool stuff. And then this is like so hands in the clay kind of
yeah, yeah.
work. Like, why do you feel like that is so making such a, I mean, you have a huge following on TikTok. Like, why do you feel like that's so um, connects with people so much?
I think that like also that wonder of what's it going to look like at the end, um, is something people enjoy as much as I do. Um, it's something that is different from a lot of other mediums where you're kind of watching it unfold. Um, but like there's two finished products when you do printmaking. There's the block and then there's the print. And the block is already some kind of like artful piece.
Right,
It's on its own.
right.
But to see this like piece that comes out of that block is, I think, very specific to block printing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Is
I think it's such a good.
when you were in India, did you get to see, because they have beautiful block printing in India.
Yeah, yeah, they have a lot of really nice block printing. They showed us a factory where they do um, like I forgot the name of it, but it's like a fabric printing, and they showed us these like wood
Textiles, yeah,
blocks that they actually, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, I was so impressed. Like they're just like hand printing these fabric um, fabrics with this like pattern.
Mm.
Um, it's so beautiful.
It's so
So
beautiful.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
I think that people are really craving just going back to something simple. I
yeah,
mean, we're so overloaded with tech stuff in our face, and it's so nice to take a breath
yeah,
and do
yeah,
something so organic and simple,
yeah,
but beautiful. And I
yeah.
love, I want to steal your eye jacket. I paint a lot of eyes and I'm like, oh, I want that. That's so cute. But so you did end up putting it on fabric, which is really cool. That's another thing.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of really great applications. So what was October? Who came up with that idea?
Um, so actually October is like the month that people do art, like art one piece a day. there used to be called, what did it used to be called? Was it, I am blanking on what this oh, Inktober, there you go. It used to be called Inktober. But then it's since evolved to encompass not just ink.
Mhm.
And I specifically took that month to focus on printmaking as like the medium of the day. And I knew for sure like this was going to be like an overwhelming undertaking.
Mhm.
But to make one print a day, I first started out like, I'll just do something small every day and see what it grows into. And, actually the most difficult thing is because I have such like a random spectrum of like hobbies, I've never really dedicated one block of time to just one specific medium.
Mhm.
And so this was a really new like venture for me because I normally try to space it out and do like, oh, a costume and a puppet and a line, like a paper cut.
Mhm.
And so I was like, no, I'm going to focus on just block printing. And it was amazing. It was like an amazing experience to see what comes from repetition. You start like focusing on what you care about more in like a faster timeline. So, the first 5 days I felt like, okay, I was like getting warmed up. But by the like sixth day, and this is just like this is the same within the same week, I was already like challenging myself to do double block prints or multicolor prints. I was thinking like, oh, what can I do to make this even more challenging? Or
And you're still
what kind
working
of
full time.
yeah, I'm still working all the time. I mean, I dedicated after work and after dinner. I would like, uh, after dinner, I'd just like 7 o'clock and on would start concepting the piece and then start carving. Um, but it was crazy. I mean, some of the times I was like, when is this print gonna end? Like I feel like I've been carving it all night and it's still not done.
Yeah.
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 But
I've done the 100-day
oh
challenge
yeah.
a couple of times, and with just doing watercolors. And I'm going to say this to any artist out there: if you really want to get some clarity around your practice, I
Yeah.
would do a challenge, like a 30-day challenge, where you make yourself sit down and do it every day. That's how you really, really get good at your craft and your
Yeah.
skill. And
Yeah.
it's such a helpful thing to do. It's not something you can do all the time, obviously, but man, I learned so much when I did those things, and my techniques got better. Just
Yeah.
everything was good that came out of it.
Yeah. And it also teaches you something like if you can't complete the 30 days necessarily, maybe that's not the medium for you. Or like you really have to like ask yourself, what do you want to put all of your energy in? Like
Mm,
what kind of like gives you energy? And I found that
yeah.
during this project that I was getting more energized. Like I felt like 3 or 4 hours was a really short time. Like it felt like 1 hour had just passed.
Right, right.
Um, and I was really enjoying the process, which I think is not how I feel normally about maybe, you know, a lot of other
Mhm.
hobbies. So,
And I think if you really want to be an artist or a creative, you have to have that. Like it's
yeah,
like, and now that you've had so many different experiences in the working industry of being a creative, that it can be super exhausting and depleting. So
yeah,
you've got to really have that passion for it, that right when you wake up, you're like, I'm in this. Like I can't wait to
yeah,
my studio and do this.
yeah.
That's how you're going to be able to sustain it as a living.
Oh, yeah,
If it's just not like that powerful for you, then it's a like phenomenal hobby to have,
yeah,
or
yes,
something. Because you don't want to um, not like it at some point.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You want to always love what you're doing, and if you're
yeah,
feeling it's forced, then you're going to start to not really want to do it anymore.
right, right.
We
I
need
think,
art in the world, so we don't want to do that.
yeah, yes, yes. Yeah, I really think that there are different things that energize you. Like there is art, and art is, a very broad spectrum, but like
Mm,
not all of it is something that energizes you. Like you could apply yourself over sewing and then your back will hurt and you'll feel really tired
Right,
and
right.
you don't want, you like feel like you don't want to do it. And sometimes you have to like think about those things and wonder like, is this giving me energy? Am I feeling energized to
Mhm.
do this? Um, and when you find that, like really tap into it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and it's okay. I like how your career has really kind of ebbed and flowed into a lot of different mediums, but they all thread together. It's a
Hmm.
really interesting thing, and it doesn't mean like you're going to be have to do this printmaking for the rest of your life, but you're in this
Hmm.
place of where you're really enjoying it, and where however it evolves will look so natural because it's so authentic to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. I also want to
Yeah.
mention one thing that I thought was interesting as you were talking about all your experiences and jobs and stuff, that your relationships with different designers were
Uh-huh.
what connected you to the next job or connected
Oh
you to
yeah.
this person over there. And I feel like, when people who are younger, it's a good thing to make those relationships in college, especially because now you're in a, a circumstance where you are in a class where you are all studying art. So all of those
Hmm.
people take a look around and network with those people, because they're all going to go out in the world and you may cross over again and help each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. I think like something I wish someone told me. I mean, it doesn't really apply to me, but something that I've told my students when I was a teacher is that like it's not even necessarily that you have to be an extrovert and like be so go-getting about uh, finding a community. I think the things that you're really interested in will naturally bring you to the people who are also interested in those things. And when you find a connection with someone, those are genuine things. Like that's a genuine connection you find with someone who has the same interest as you. Um, and those people, when you start building a relationship with them, whether it's like on a social media, like you're sharing work with them and you're commenting on their work and they're commenting on yours, that kind of stuff, like it really um, builds like community.
Hmm.
And you don't think about it, but sometimes if they're looking out for a role or an opportunity, that person could think of you, and that person.
Like your friend,
Yeah.
like, I think you would be a good person for that. And the other thing I wanted to bring up that I thought is great. I mean, you are an art director at Square, which is phenomenal. But when you started this and your friend said, "Hey, I think you've got a job that you'd be good for. Can you fly to San Francisco?" You
Hmm.
were not necessarily qualified in all of those things, but you were
Hmm.
creative and you could
Hmm.
learn it. And I
Yeah.
think that paralyzes a lot of people who are graduating thinking, well, I'm not experienced enough to go for that job.
Right.
And it's like, you know what? I have been doing this stuff a long time. I look for somebody who's positive and who wants to learn. I can teach
Hmm.
you how to do a
Yeah.
job, but if you're
Yeah.
creative and positive and you want to learn something, I mean, I can't teach you
Yeah.
to be positive,
Right. Right.
So don't limit yourself thinking, well, I'm not qualified enough for that.
Right.
That's not, don't do that to yourself, because just
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
Figure
and,
it
and I
out.
think, yeah, and like a lot of people get really discouraged when they get rejected. But a friend told me some advice that was really helpful when I was applying and getting rejected. That these employers are looking for a very specific thing,
Mhm.
and it doesn't you will never fit every single you know box that they're looking for. But someone out there is looking for what you can offer. So it's like to not get so sad when you get rejected. It's actually like a matter of time until someone who's looking for exactly what you can offer will find you.
Mhm.
So just like put yourself out there. um,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you're not good enough either. It's like you.
And I mean, maybe
Yeah.
when you could share, because I know like it's hard for people who graduated this year from college to find work right now. So I think it's like what you just said, there you just got to keep throwing the spaghetti against the wall, and one of them's
Hmm.
going to stick. And don't take it personal if you're not
Yeah.
getting these jobs right now, because I mean, every company I know right now is redefining what they look like, uh,
Yeah.
with what's been going on. And it was
Yeah.
like
And,
that in 2010 when you were up.
yeah.
It was the economy crashed, and it was the same kind of a situation, so.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like the other advice I'd give for someone who is newly out of college is there's nothing wrong with filling your portfolio with like case studies. Like you take on a challenge of designing something that's not maybe like in production and it's not necessarily a real project, but you're showcasing what you can do.
Mhm.
And that's like really important to see um, for someone who's hiring is like,
Right.
what are you capable of? Yeah.
I was just said this on another podcast, called preparation meeting opportunity. It's like when you have these downtimes, that's when you should be working on your website. That's when you should be
Yeah.
generating content and think about who's the company that I want to work for. And then let me start putting that kind of imagery out on my Instagram feed or TikTok or whatever you're posting your art, so that people can see when they're scrolling through, oh, this person. Or when you get the interview, you can go, oh, I have some things you might want to take a look at over here. And they
Yeah.
see what you're capable of. And it's not time wasted then at that point. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
What would
Yes.
be your final last tidbit of advice, or was that it?
Um, I think like my advice that I've learned over, my creative journey is that it's never too late to pivot.
Mm,
Like you can be a high school teacher, and if you feel like this is not the job for you, don't feel like you're too old to like move into another position.
mm.
I thought I was too old. This was like, years after college, I was already, you know, way away from um I feel like a lot of other people had started earlier than me, and you can still do it. Like if you have the right work ethic and the right attitude, it's never too late to like take up another creative career.
I could
um
not agree more. I love that. It's never too late to take up a creative career. I love it. It's so good. This has just been so delightful. I'm so excited that I finally got to visit with you and share your all these amazing things that you've done. I'm so glad this is a visual podcast and we can show pictures of all of this.
yeah.
So your new website is called.
Camilio with 3 E's and 2 O's.com.
And we'll put that in the show notes too. And make sure to follow her over on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, because she is doing so many amazing things with her artwork. I just love all of it. It's so good.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank you
Camille.
so much.